Hey, you've tuned into iWork4Him, the mouthpiece for the faith and work movement. We're your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg.
Excited to have another iWork4Him podcast where we get to highlight one of our contributors for the iWork4Him book, part of our new trilogy.
All three books, I Work for Him, She Works for Him, and I Retire for Him, can be found online at iWork4Him.com/bookstore. Today we're going to get to highlight one author, chapter 28 from iWork4Him, Joe Carroll. From Biblical Leadership with Excellence out of San Antonio, Texas. Joe's a longtime ministry partner, friend of iWork4Him. Joe can be found online, bleonline.org. Joe Carroll, welcome back to iWork4Him.
Great to be with you.
Joe, you contributed a chapter, like we said, to iWork4Him. Give us a little background into how you connected your faith to your work.
Oh, goodness. When I first came to the city I'm in now, I thought I would be here for 2 years and then go off to be a missionary with my wife in Mexico. When I started working, it disrupted my whole framework. I realized I did not know how to connect my faith and my work. And that was a real eye-opener for me to say, hey, Joe, you need to grow up and marry this life for you.
Wow.
So that's a lot of years ago that you've been in San Antonio.
It has been a lot of years.
And so who told you and who taught you how to do that connecting?
Well, I had this itch to see something else happen. And I felt like as Christians, we could get together and ought to do something. I was used to a ministry in college where we collaborated, and it wasn't happening in the workplace. And so eventually God led me to a few other individuals, and we started meeting and praying. And this was before there was really any materials out in the faith at work movement. And so we started writing our own material, stumbled through it, edit it, try it, practice it with people. And eventually we developed 3 basic core studies that help people connect their faith and their work. So it was a lot of trial and error for us. And we're still learning that it is not an easy thing because it's easy to disconnect our faith and our work. So part of that was trial and error. And I was 28 at the time, and what happened eventually is a ministry was born out of that called Biblical Leadership for Excellence. And so we did not start off intending to have an organization, but we saw God organically raise this ministry up. And 35 or 40 years later, God's still, by His mercy, allowing us to do things in people's lives.
Well, and that's a little bit of what you share about in the chapter that you wrote for iWork4Him. So why don't you dig into that a little deeper? What are people going to hear when they read your chapter?
Well, they're going to probably the 3 main things that we really help people do is to authentically connect with God in their work. Most people, when they think of faith at work, they think of evangelism. That's certainly a huge part of the workplace. But work is not just a platform. Work is a place where we experience God because He's a worker. And that aspect of connecting with His image and consecrating our decisions to Him in the midst of everyday work is such an integral part of God allowing us to participate in who He is. And so it should be an internal experience. And as that internal experience really impacts our life, we see the overflow into other people's lives. So evangelism is really based upon connecting and consecrating. And so we help people connect, consecrate, and then be commissioned as His ambassadors in their workplace.
All right. So draw us a picture. Give us a story of somebody that's gone through BLE and put the practice into practice at work.
A fellow by the name of Larry walked into one of our studies. We sometimes partner with churches and we help them develop a workplace ministry. And his administrator at a large company called USAA, which is one of the largest insurance companies in the world, this lady invited Larry to come to a study. He'd never been to anything like this. And so he walks into one of our BLE studies, about 10 people in group, and this was all brand new to him. And in one of our chapters, we try to equate work-related ideas with what people are doing. And so in the real estate industry, which was my background, is that when you own something, you get the title to that property. You get it deeded over to you. So we say, hey, you maybe have deeded your life over, but have you specifically deeded your work life over to God? And we offer that for people. We don't coerce them, but say, if you want to do this, we're here to participate and support you and really bless you in doing that. Well, Larry took this very seriously. And he oversaw a large group of people. He was a high executive. And so he signs this deed over. And he meant it. 5 months later, he is let go from his big, big job at USAA. And they phased out the department. He hadn't done anything wrong. They just were moving a different direction. But the people in the group were concerned about how this was going to impact Larry. He walks in the next study, and he's got a little bit of a smirk on his face. And he says, this was hard, but I already deeded my work over to him. He has something else in mind for me. Let me fast forward. This has been 5 years later. He now owns a chocolate Kilwins shop on Alamo Plaza in San Antonio. He started from scratch, became a franchise owner, and he says the first mission in San Antonio is called the Alamo. His is the second mission right across from the Alamo. He says, we're a chocolate company disguised as a church. And what they do with their employees is amazing. And so he's taken very seriously his connecting and consecrating and commissioning. He has a basement that basically is filled with dream boards of his employees of how they want to see God work in their life. He has a prayer room, and he leads Bible studies there. He also has Christians working there as well as non-Christians. So it's a real place of ministry. And so Larry got it. He connected, he consecrated, he commissions, and is doing this daily in his work. He can't wait to go to work every day. And this has been through COVID.
Wow. Wow.
And they stayed open through COVID in the middle of a retail store in San Antonio. It's been amazing. Real inspirational story.
I think we've eaten at that Kilwins. Is it the one right down there along that river in San Antonio?
Yes.
We ate there last time we were in San Antonio.
That's so.
Well, next time you come, I'll treat you.
Oh, awesome.
We'll be there next week. Okay.
It's so great when you get to have that firsthand look at what happens when obedience is played out in front of you. And thank you for sharing that, because a lot of us, maybe we haven't seen that in our surroundings, but can be inspired by that. So we would love to hear, Joe, how is God using you in your everyday work? You have what you do every day as well. And how is God using you?
Well, I wear two hats now. I still have my real estate practice that I get to serve customers and clients in a commercial real estate fashion. And so I use that as an opportunity to connect with God as well, and seeing him help me serve people. And so serving people and creating value is what God does so well. And so whenever I'm able to help one of our young fellows in our office, when I mentor them, or if I'm wearing my BLE hat, where we get to go into a workplace and help them raise the cultural needle of Christ in what they do, I love that. Mm-hmm. It is so energizing to me to be able to use in those formats.
It's got to be fun, and you've been doing the real estate thing for a long time, and you have a reputation. So everybody in San Antonio knows Joe Carroll represents great commercial real estate, but also is the leader of Biblical Leadership for Excellence, BLEonline.org. So I think that, that's a lot of pressure. You got to make sure that you're never going to underperform, because everybody knows where you're at.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thank God there's forgiveness.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's one of the things that's like, we're still all human, right? We still make mistakes.
Well, the rest of us are, not you. Because you're perfect all the time.
I am very human. So the fact that we can, seek that forgiveness and start anew every day is really a part of walking that life as well, because we don't have it all perfected, but yet we, can try to be like Christ, right? Try to learn from his ways. And I love that, Biblical Leadership for Excellence.
Yeah. All right. So, Joe, let's get transparent in the last few minutes of the show today. It's a question we love to ask leaders. It's a question we love to ask Christ followers who are got some years under their belt. What's one thing you would like to tell your younger you?
Only one.
For the sake of this show,
choose three or less if you've got a list.
Well, I have 4 children, so maybe I should start with what I hope they would learn as well. But
there you go.
I think slowing down. I'm an achiever and a personality type, and so God is glorified in productivity. He definitely is glorified in productivity, but he's more glorified when we allow him to be productive through us. And one of the things that I felt God really impressing upon me is that skills never replace connection and communion with Him. And, He has really been challenging me as well. I think what I would tell my younger self is that He wants to do more with less of me, if I will let Him.
He wants to do more with less of you. So He wants to do more using you with less of you.
Yeah, I know it sounds kind of strange.
Could you draw us a picture of that?
Well, part of it is allowing God to bring forth what He wants and to wait. And even when this role with BLE came about, as you guys know, my predecessor who was leading the ministry, he died suddenly. And so we weren't anticipating, it was very inconsiderate for him to do that. But
he won.
He got to go be with the Lord directly. And so anyway, I sensed that God wanted me to wear a different hat in leading this ministry. But I waited, and I waited for my wife to also speak into that. And I think part of my former life is that I could try to talk people into stuff. I could try to talk myself into stuff. And there is value in waiting and allowing God to bring fruit. And as I am learning, as I'm aging, that waiting and seeing what God will do, if I'll sometimes put a cap on my effort and really pray and sincerely wait to see what He has in mind. And we're at a place in our ministry right now where we have lots of opportunities. I mean, we have more opportunities than what I can do. And so it's really forced me to say, okay, God, many of us who enjoy productive careers in our vocation, many of us have lots of skills, and that's good. But, skills can be overrated if we're not really connecting with God. And so it's important in any kind of ministry environment to really be able to be patient. And that is when you like to achieve things, that's a real challenge.
Well, and in real estate, it's all about making the deal, right? So allowing God to drive instead of you trying to just make it all happen, there's so much that we can learn from that. Thank you for sharing.
Joe Carroll with Biblical Leadership for Excellence, online at bleonline.org. Joe Carroll, thanks for being back on iWork4Him.
It was a pleasure to be with you guys. Thank you.
And you can experience Joe's chapter 28 inside iWork4Him. Get a copy, iWork4Him.com/bookstore. You've been listening to iWork4Him with your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. We're Christ followers. Our workplace, it's our mission field, but ultimately, I work for Him.